My name is Dan.
And my name is Suzie.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. Today, we have 3 people on already. That is incredible. Woo! We're going to build up today as we look at the whole idea of value. So if you would, take a moment and type in your name, type in your location, and we're going to move forward today with Tuesday.
We are in Tyrone, Georgia, which is about 20 minutes south of the Atlanta airport. And this is our home. This is where we live. And we are excited for what today's Tuesday will bring and the discussion and the possibility to throw things out to you and to let you guys type in, message us, and have a chat about values and where we are so far in living our life, our Zoe life, fully alive.
So if you would, as you're typing in, also give a little thumbs up if you can hear us okay, if you can see us okay, if you like my shirt and suit. I mean, just give a little thumb up so we can move forward here today.
And where are you coming from? We'd like to know where you're coming from. Hello, Matt. Welcome. I am guessing which Matt this is, but maybe you can let us know where you're coming from, Matt.
As we're starting, I want you to show you the new space we have here. This is actually a hallway that we have
straight off from our door.
We have made this into our CIA, which is our Courageous Imagination area. And so today, maybe not all the time, but we're going to broadcast live from this space. And it's got some of our little favorite things behind us. And
these are a few of our favorite things.
Just a few. We have a lot of favorite things. So who we got? We got Matt.
Matt's coming from Kent. Hi, Matt. All good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks for your dialogues this week. It's great to be connecting with you through the week. And this today is really special as we look at the whole idea of values, because I think in the process of writing Relaunch Your Life, I spent a lot of time looking at rhythms, because I was in the process of looking at rhythms because I had already put my values in place. And it's been interesting, even today, as Suzie and I have talked, or this week, that it's almost like, why did we do rhythms before we did values? Because values need to come first. But I think
they're very connected, no matter which order they come in. Yeah.
But I think the reason is we need to understand how important the rhythms are. And today we really get the why, because of values. We can't move forward without values, and we can't really support those values unless we have rhythms.
Yeah, so Katie, 4-time Tuesday attender. She came to 2 in the first week. Hero status to you. Katie, thank you also. You are so active on our Fully Alive Revolution Facebook group. And we appreciate you being there and making comments and throwing out questions to get us stimulated about how we can live our life fully alive and some of the things that you've been learning and processing. Love how you add so much extra value for that.
One of the things you need to have today, so if you haven't done it yet, you're going to want to have your 3 values written down. And these are 3 values that you want for the rest of the month, or for 30 days. Sometimes we get all my values, but we want to honor 3 values for the next 30 days. And so if you would take a few moments and maybe just scribble them down a little bit, because in a little bit, we're going to have you throw those into the mix that we can begin to talk about what are the values, and then how do we honor those over the course of this next month.
Right. And Matt, I'm not sure where Kent is, but I think I know you're Matt. I'm guessing you're Matt Taylor. And anyways, I want to just do another shout out to you, Matt, because your ideas and your response as well about how you use the course. You get on the train and you train and you do course or processing of the course, and probably many other things as well, because I know you. But also we were talking about morning pages, and you started doing that and found that a really good rhythm for you. And I really appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the feedback for that as well. So thank you for that. We love to hear how you're using the course, what you're gaining from it, it's Matt T near London. Oh, awesome. So yeah, thank you for that. And I think we want to just put a bit of a poll up here. Thank you for signing in. The others of you who are on, if you wouldn't mind just putting your name so we know who is with us, because we can't see that when we're in the midst of the live. Just wondering, which statement best describes you and the modules? So where are you at so far? Have you completed all 3 of the modules? You've completed 1 and working on 2, or you've completed parts of each of the modules, or some of you are just getting started.
It's good to know where you are here.
We heard from a few people that just got started and they're like, oh, I want to do it so much. And then I have my final exams. It's a really high intense exam. Some are going on retreats. You can continue to take this course at the pace that it works for you and take as long or short. We're keeping the whole course open until the end of February. If we hear from many of you or some of you, we can do this individually, that you need a little bit longer, you just let us know and we can open that up for you to be a little longer.
And I also want you to know within Tuesday, we're time traveling a little bit. And let me explain that. As we say things, it'll be maybe 10, maybe even 20 seconds before you receive it.
What?
So sometimes what that is we'll say something and it's a long time before we get a response back. Or maybe we've asked you for something and then we move on before you've even received it. And you're like, wait, what's going on?
Or had time to process it.
Had time to process. So today we're going to try to say in a little bit, we're going to talk about, we're going to throw it out there and then back up. So we're going to go back and forward a little bit as we move throughout this Tuesday.
Feel free, on that note, feel free to make notes anytime you think of them, or we're talking about something springs to mind, or it takes a while for you to get the thoughts out, and you might think, oh, it's too late to put it in the comments or in the chat. It's never too late, and we're trying to read and watch them.
Actually, after each webinar, we go back and we read all the comments.
Just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Never too late.
Yeah.
I just turned around. I was looking for this. We just put these books in here yesterday as we were putting this area together. And this
some of our favorites
is one of my favorite books. And I was thinking about values. This book literally had a huge change in my life.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
When I was younger. And sometime I'll get into this. But the values in this book are incredible. I remember as a young kid learning about how much to watch TV and how to be thankful. And values are all around us. So I had to quickly find that book here in my library.
It's a good book for values.
It is a good book. So take the poll there if you would.
Awesome.
Good. I think we're about ready to get started. I have created a new way of getting started. And so put this in place.
Here's the intro.
Here we go.
There it is.
Oh, I feel so good now.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I was every single week. It was like, okay, and I guess we're going to start now. And I thought, well, let's have something to kick it off. And so I have something to kick it off, but I don't know how to really bridge into the now. So
now you do, yeah.
Dun 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 dun.
Yes, and of course that will continue to be transformed, won't it?
Of course it will. Of course.
Yeah, this week, as we are coming into it, as Dan said, our week in the Relaunch Your Life is Inhabit Your Values. So we don't want to forget about anything we've already talked about already. So we've been focusing so much on living your fully alive Zoe life.
And we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, keep finding, developing, identifying, processing what it takes for you, first of all, to know what your Zoe life looks like, and then to have the right rhythms and values that support it. And we're just going to continue to layer and talk about how they all continue to go together. Specifically this week on Tuesday, we want to really put values and rhythms together and how that, of course, supports your fully alive life.
I made another video that we're going to watch in a little bit, but I was really surprised at how values connect with the soul, how values connect with the rhythms, how values connect with Zoe. And I'm looking for more of those connections. If you have some as we go through. Just type them in that I find that my values connect with my relationships. I would love to see some of those connections, because values do not stand alone. It's like a house. A house does not just stand alone. It's surrounded in a community. It's surrounded by many other things. And
hopefully with a good foundation.
Right. Especially if you're in England where the houses are all connected. I think that's a much better picture of what the values look like.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would just, again, we're going to ask in a little bit for you to tell us your top 3 values that you have chosen for this season of life, for this month. If you haven't already done that part of the module 3, no problem. Just choose some of the things that are important to you, that you value, and we want to talk about those and talk about how those rhythms go together.
While you're doing that, let me quickly show you the one for me. My 3 top values, and again, I have a lot of different values, but these are the 3 that I want to honor over the course of the next month. And I have chosen adventure, I've chosen innovation, and I've chosen life. And life has been one of these things over the last year that is just a value that I'm grabbing for more and more. But when I look at adventure, then I'm going to connect it to a few of the rhythms in my life. So kayaking after church, that's becoming a rhythm. And
yes.
That's very funny because we go to church with our kayaks on the roof.
We have our red Zoe car and our red kayaks on top. And then I have my red hair, and people are like, whoa, so much red. But that's our life color, isn't it?
Yeah, people are saying, are you getting ready for the next flood? And I say, if I drive off the road, the car will just flip and we'll just sail. So one of the rhythms I'm putting in place is kayaking, hiking in new space. Behind our house, which is right in that direction, they're putting in a new subdivision. It used to be 50 acres of beautiful trees. Now there's some roads. But I want to not just go for a walk. Every day I take a walk, but not just take a walk on the road. I want to begin hiking in the woods around where they're building. And that's a new rhythm I want to put in my life. I don't know if it's daily or weekly, but I think it's the choice that, okay, do I go to the road or do I hit the woods? So that's a new adventure.
That sounds like rhythm. An adventure in and of itself.
I got to put the boots
on
and go.
Where to go.
And another one is cooking once a day. I love to cook, but sometimes it's not just very spontaneous, which is okay. But I want to be able to focus in on, I would like to have this kind of meal. Lately, we have not gone to a lot of restaurants because we're finding so much fun in cooking our own food. And part of the adventure for me is cooking is an adventure because
yes.
I invent. I don't read a recipe. I invent. So that's one of the adventure rhythms I want to have.
So you have a value of adventure, and then you're looking at these rhythms to support those values that you have.
So also innovation. I want to get back into innovating a little more. This platform gives me a great place to do that as we look at Relaunch Your Life, as we look at Fully Alive Revolution. I want to be creating themes all the time and ideas and resources. Yesterday, I made 2 videos. It was incredible. That was rhythms honoring the value of innovation.
Talk about Fully Alive. He's like, Suze, come look so far. Suze, I think it's finished. He's just so excited to produce an innovation.
I love it. Drawing in church. On the ship when we lived there, I always took my sketchbook to any worship service or whatever, and I connected with God and to the message through drawing. I haven't done that. I haven't honored that value of using the art, and I want to get back into that. So I'm going to start taking my sketchbook with me to church. And then Simply Life, daily studying a Zoe verse. I've gone from just the verses in the Gospels to the whole New Testament that have Zoe. I've also gone into the Old Testament, the K verses, the Greek, the Hebrew word. It's incredible, some of the things I'm finding in that. I'm also honoring it by acknowledging life.
Yeah.
Just, wow, that's life, or that isn't life. And really verbally saying that. And then also the morning rituals. Yesterday, I started some new morning rituals. Today, I didn't get to do them because I'm setting up everything for the webinar. But wow, that ritual in the morning of I will get up and do this, A, B, C. I got so much done yesterday. So those are some of the things that I want to honor.
Thank you, Dan, for sharing yours. We'd love to hear from any of you. What are some of your values? Oh, okay, I see. Katie, let me just read. I started enjoying cooking more after watching Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is a Netflix miniseries about principles of cooking and flavor instead of cooking with recipes. So have you watched that one?
I haven't. I watched another one recently on Netflix called Champion, or it's all about some of the dangers of meats and things like that. So I've been trying to cook a little more meatless, and we've gone off basically dairy. So that would look. Thanks, Katie. I'll be watching that.
Yeah, thanks for that shout out. Yeah, some of my rhythms, I didn't make a slide to go together. Of course, we have the connection with people rhythm that we talked about in the module. And yesterday I had the chance to connect with 3 different people groups. Well, I had coffee with Lauren. We talked about Teen Street. She's administrating Teen Street, and we were just chatting and remembering. I was able to FaceTime with Elaine in Minnesota. Today she gets to fly to South Africa to see her engaged man, Rian, and it was awesome just to catch up with her. And then we just had a spontaneous drop-in by Brother B and Jessa and Cadence. And
they work in Italy. They were here visiting their family, and they stopped in to see us. We love when people drop in. Please,
yes.
If you're ever in the neighborhood, please drop in. If our house is not clean, we'll invite you to help clean it with us. Last week, a friend of mine, Dave, came in, and we weren't ready to eat. He was coming for dinner, and he just started doing dishes. It was like, oh, how embarrassing. Oh, how great. All in one.
Yeah, it's just like we love people just joining into the life that we're in. So connections is one of mine. I also have a really high value in this season of learning, and we're doing a lot of research for this course and beyond and for our personal life, and have loved that. And we were reading the other day the book Garden City by John Mark Comer. It's right here. And it's one that we started on our 100 Days to Live. We made a video about it on Sunday because we were reading about Sabbath. And it sparked me to think, oh, I really enjoy the way he writes. And what if we could see a podcast? So we found a podcast. And let me see if I can find the podcast.
I just want to recommend that she's looking for this. If you have not read Garden City, I would just encourage you to do it. I have never read a book like this. It is just so inspiring. He just put out a new one as well. We're not going to get there yet because I haven't read it yet, but it's getting rave reviews. But this one, it's just talking about how God created us in the garden, but we're destined for a city. And it's how to live life between work, rest, and the art of being human. Oh, how beautiful.
Okay, so here's the podcast. It is called Fight, Hustle, and Hurry Podcast. And it's by John
Mark. One more time.
It's by John Mark Comer, and also a guy called Jeff, and I forget his last name, so I was trying to look it up, but I thought I might begin broadcasting, and I didn't want to do that. So here's my library. Well, anyways, not so important. Oh, here we go. It is by John Mark Comer and Jefferson, and of course
there
it is cut off.
It's George just put it up there. Thanks, George.
Hi, George. George, are you coming in from Carlisle? Nice to have you with us. Yes, it's Jeff Ben. I don't know how to say his name. I've never heard of him, but very interesting story. Both Jeff and John Mark are friends, and they were in a writing project of a book. And so both of them wanted,
2 different books. Yeah,
wanted to send each other the books so that they could get recommendations and a quote from their friend, in the first pages of the cover, or whichever one it would work out with. And they found it very interesting that they were both writing about not being hurried, about taking rest, and they were like, we should do a podcast. So this particular podcast,
it's not advertised anywhere. You just have to go find it, but it is gold.
Yeah, so it's the 2 of them talking about more about the subject of don't hurry. For us, it's like be in your values, do your rhythms that are important for your Zoe life. That's how we frame it since we're in this course, and that's kind of our subject. Same basic concepts, very supporting thoughts about the two of them just saying, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? And what do you think? And
one of the things that really
very inspired by that
was that they talk very much about the Bible wasn't focused on hustle. We today have a lot, even in our Christian world, hustle, get it done. God wants you to do more and more, and how it's killing our soul.
Yeah.
And they're like, stop the hustle. And they just talk about it. And some of these ideas are like, really? Could I do that? Could I just slow down and live life to the full? So it's a great one, because they just give us permission to live.
Yeah. So Katie, you told us about the Netflix cooking, and we're talking about podcasts and books. Are there any other resources out there that you guys are coming around that you feel are a good support to what we're talking about, living the fully alive Zoe life? If so, put them down in the chats or send us a message privately, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. So in a few moments, we're going to ask you to put in your 3 top values that you want to honor this month. And why we do that, we'll take a few minutes and watch the video that I wrote about the connections. So I'll get
this is your video scribe, right?
This is a video scribe. I love making these.
This is a whiteboard presentation, trying to pull it all together, and then we're going to discuss it.
So here it is. While you're writing down your 3, please write them down. You can look at the connections.
There it is.
I love that music.
That's awesome.
You should join me sometimes when I'm making these videos. I have so much fun just finding the music.
He is Zoe fully alive. So I hope you enjoyed that. That connection of the two, those make such a difference. Okay, so we're hearing from Cara. Cara, where are you coming in from? I think I know who you are. I think it's Cara Packwood. And if so, welcome, welcome. She's getting ready to go to the Logos Hope very, very soon. So thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's see. We've got Katie who says, I had a hard time narrowing down the values to 3. I had a list of 14. You sound exactly like me. I can't narrow them down. I used to, when they said only 8, I would combine and have 2 words together like a Duzie words. And then I saw that they fit into 3 general categories. So I picked one from each category. Oh, can't wait to hear those. Jeff Bethke, I think is how he said it. Does a podcast with his wife, which is great. They talk about everyday real life from a Christian perspective.
He's a pastor in Hawaii, and I think it's Maui. And yes, he's
an author.
He has some great things.
Okay, I look forward to checking it out. Thanks,
I haven't seen
George,
one with his wife, so thanks.
And Katie and George know each other. Cara says community, artistic expression, making time for piano, voice, and dance in a week. And Cara does musicals. She does a great job. Amazing, amazing work. And what a great singer you are, Cara. And physical fitness, getting back into running and doing gym-esque workouts multiple times a week and improving flexibility. That will be a great skill to take on the Logos Hope, because jogging is something you usually can do. Currently, they're in the Caribbean. And Matt, a great little resource on Sabbath is the Bible Project video. Wow. And Matt put the link in there. Thank you for that. Matt sent that to us. It is an amazing video on Sabbath. Do you want to say anything else about that?
Oh, it was very good. I actually posted it on our socials, because I think the reason it hit me so much is because I'm really focused. One of the next trainings we do has to do with leaning into leaning into the Sabbath. And I think it's not just a day a week to stop doing your regular work and do other work. It's so much more than that. Reading right now in, people who are, shut off your phone and all the rest. And it's like, wow, what a relaxing life rhythm that would be. And I'm not there yet, but we're trying to take our Sabbath, and that video was a great help to me. So thanks for sending that along, Matt.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we just want to look into one of the other values that I have, that we have, is health. And we had many people ask us about the detox. And
because this is one of those things, as you are writing down your 3, we were saying our value was health, and what do we do about it? So Susie's going to show you the process we went from selecting. All of December, the value we tried to honor was health, and then Suzie went to do rhythms, and that's what she's going to look at right now.
Okay, I'm not quite sure if it's up in the right form, but this was the naturally detox your body. And I just want to show you, this is a PDF that you have within the module. But just a quick review. When we're detoxing our bodies, it's down to a cellular level. So our cells are getting cleaned out, and how our cells get cleaned out is the liver. So very important for the liver to be clean. And in order for the liver to absorb the right nutrients from our body so that it can filter and have what it takes, our gut or our digestive system needs to be clean. So in our detox in particular, we really like the effects, and we're continuing eating in that same clean, healthy way. But we're trying to get our intestines, our digestive system, or our gut clean. And basically, some of these things that are in the PDF are really encouraging that as well. So, here we go. This is how we do it. So we want to drink. So get our gut clean, and then our liver clean. And then we have so many stress hormones when we have stress, that we also have to get that cleaned
When
up.
we have stress, if you ever have stress.
When you have stress. So drink more water. And we're trying to drink, this is 16 ounces or a half a liter. And we're trying to drink 8 to 11 of these a day. And when we do that, we feel so much better.
And we get our exercise, just walking back and forth to the restroom.
And then focus on sleep. Studies say 7 to 9 hours of sleep is so important for each of us to get. And we're really working on that. We're not very good at getting enough sleep yet. Getting regular exercises, that's one of our rhythms, and our watches help remind us within the hour to get up and move around. And studies say you should have about 3 to 5 hours of moderate exercise and a little bit less if your exercise is more intense. So, Kara, you're jogging, that's going to be more in the
This
intense
actually could
side.
be a new rhythm for my life value is to this month focus on getting enough sleep.
Yeah. So the things you want to decrease are sugar and processed foods, GMO, genetically modified. I forget what O stands for. Items, objects. Anyways, so when you go into the store and you look at things, look on the label. If there are items on that label that you don't know what they are, it's probably chemicals. And we're learning to look at labels and try to eat what we call clean foods, because especially sugar wreaks havoc on your endocrine system. And then eat less salt, because salt makes you retain water, and you get bloated and your organs are not as healthy. And the water and potassium, high-rich potassium foods, and in that section there, it talks about what foods those are. They help you reduce bloating. And then eat antioxidant-rich foods. So these are ones that give your cells lot of health. And antioxidants include like green tea, extra coffee, dark chocolate, berries, anything that's purple in color or dark in color of these berries. Chocolate. Very powerfully healthy in the antioxidant.
I like that part.
And then you want to increase pre and probiotics.
Yeah.
Now, prebiotics are the foods that have fibers that your body actually doesn't digest, but the probiotics, or the good healthy organisms for your body system, they feed on that. So there's a list of foods like that.
The probiotics are eating the prebiotics, so you're sort of like feeding them. You're a farmer in your gut.
So in your gut, you're having the microorganisms that can digest your food properly and keep your digestive system open and able to absorb all the nutrients that you're eating, since you're eating healthy, if that's what you're doing. And then you can also detox through your skin. So sweating or sauna. You want to go to a sauna?
I would love
Dan
to go to
loves sauna.
Suzie started taking this Epsom salt and rubbing it on the body when shower, and it's like, oh, it's disgusting, but the skin feels totally different.
Yeah, just dry Epsom salt, or you can soak in it. I read a study on it, and so we were just trying it. And then
be careful what studies you read. Just be careful.
Transform your stress. We all have stress. It's a normal. When stress comes into our body, any surprises or even minimal stress, we are geared up to fight or fly. Sometimes people freeze when it's like a really intense situation. And normal stress is okay, but our stress levels should go up and down. Stress and then relaxation. We're talking about Sabbath. So you want to detox or transform your stress into peace. And one of the ways that you can do that, on my watch it, if I haven't done it for a while, it says take some deep breaths. And I use my deep breathing time. I try to go at least 2 minutes at a shot, 5 if I have time. And then I do my prayer to God. I inhale God and I exhale anything that God doesn't want in my life. And so I take
You
that.
don't exhale God.
I exhale the negative things. Did I say I exhale God? No, I inhale God and I try to take him in, and I exhale those things that should be displaced.
So the reason Suzie's talking about detox is because I want to show you the process. She said this was my value to get healthy. And then she said in several rhythms for her and for me to walk that journey. We were supposed to only go like 6 days on this. I think we went 3 weeks. made a huge difference in our life. But if we would have just said, I just want to get healthy, if we just would have believed that value but did nothing about it, nothing would have happened. So we're going to, again, take a look at what are yours and then what are you going to do about it?
Okay, so let's hear from a few more of you now. Let's see. Cara's still in Scotland, getting ready to leave for the GO conference on Sunday. Wow, already.
Great.
God bless you. You're going to Mosbach for that. Katie says, one from the category of people, the value of connection. Yeah, me too. Love that. Supported by the rhythm to write a letter to a friend or family member each week.
That's great.
I love that idea. We should do that.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Matt says, I'm still struggling to nail down my values, but I think a big one right now is growth through learning, reading, creative pursuits, physical training, and relationally. So growth. So he has a very Zoe life, widespread growth. I love that. Matt, you are very well-rounded and you always are moving towards growth.
What I would say, Matt, is try not to overthink it. Just say, if growth is my value, what is one rhythm? And again, if you end up with 10 instead of 3, it's okay. But we're trying to push a little bit so that you can say, here are the ones I'm focusing on. Because I think focus is very important when we look at the whole idea of relaunching our life.
Yeah.
It has to be intentional. It's not just going to happen. And if we do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got before. So when you prioritize, this is going to be about growth. And I will do that by reading a book once a week. I will do that by joining a club of intellectuals. I'll do that by taking a class. I have no idea, but you have to go beyond what I want into how my rhythms will support that. Yeah.
So Katie, I want to also read number 2. So her second value, I'm guessing, from my category of personal development, the value of productivity, which I define as the practice of doing good work regularly in order to improve the quality of that work, my capacity to work, and improve my work-life context. I haven't figured out exactly what rhythms to implement to this value. Wow. Productivity, personal development, and personal productivity. That just goes so along with the Zoe life. Thank you for sharing that, Katie, because as we have our Zoe life and we're finding rhythms that allow us to be uniquely fully alive, it rolls out, and yours is definitely going to roll out into your work.
Katie, I'm wondering if you're on a computer, if you're on a phone, this doesn't work, but if you're on a computer, maybe you can put up your hand right there at the bottom of the blue, and we can interview you a little bit on how you're doing that. If you don't want to, great. Part of it coming in, if you don't want to even be on with a video, you can just have audio on. But
you can put your hand up and we can have a little chat, and Dan and I can help you develop maybe some of those rhythms.
I would like to learn a little bit about this whole value of productivity, because for me in my life, that is a very high value, but sometimes it's going to make or break my day. And our value, how do we live that balance? So Katie's got her hand up. We're going to see if we can invite you into the room.
Takes a little while, Katie. Just please be willing to
accept that
process. You've got to go in the back end and say yes and test a few things to make sure that it's working, and then we'll be able to see you and pull you up.
While Katie is coming in, we're gonna put up the next poll question.
Which statement best describes finding your top 3 values? So we have a statement. It was easier than I thought. It was more difficult, and I wasn't able to find my 3 values. So if you don't mind, just take a second and take that poll while we're trying to get Katie up and connected to us here and going live with her.
We've done this with a few people, sometimes successfully, sometimes it hasn't been so successfully, but we'll try to get Katie in here to talk with us in just a few moments. George, do you have any of your values you'd like to share? Bring up there. That would be great. Anyone else who's out there that you have, you've been talking, or maybe you've been just in the corner watching, that you would like to add into the conversation? We would love to hear it. And maybe you're saying, this is my value, but I don't know what the rhythms are. Or maybe you have rhythms and you're like, I don't know what value that is. We would love to bring that in, and everyone can speak into that process.
And if you're one of the people watching this on the replay, we would also love to hear about your rhythms and your values, if you know them. So there's a place where you can just keep writing your message and it comes to us and we'll email you back. So we'd love to hear from you. How's it going, Katie? She's probably in the process. A few people have told us when they go to the process, they try to do it and it kicks them out of the system. They have to go back, find their link again, and then come back into the system. So we're still
it works really well.
We're still trying to learn how to tell you how to do that.
So if you would, while we're waiting, try to fill out that poll. We just would love to have some information.
Do we wait or do we talk about becoming?
This is saying, Matt.
Thanks, Dan, for the feedback. The focus is one of the things I'm working on. I'm loving that about this course, is helping to think wider, deeper, and then come out with some focused outcomes. I've only just started module 2 today.
Good for you.
Congratulations. So we'll nail some things down this week. That's great. So you're in the midst of rhythm. So that's great.
And just to speak into that while we're waiting for Katie, there are some people like, well, because there's a new module, I got to be on it. We have created this so that you can benefit at your own pace. And I love the fact, Matt, that you're just getting into module 2, and that's perfectly well.
And some are just starting, actually.
And anything from module 2, which has to do with rhythms, that you want to bring up today, that's great. If you're just starting with Zoe, you want to bring that in, because it all works together to relaunch our life. And we're just sort of making it into a system, but it is throwing everything in a blender. This is relaunching our life. Is more of a smoothie than individual ingredients.
Smoothie.
And so that's great. Thanks, Matt, for moving at whatever pace forward.
I'm not sure if it's working for Katie. I don't see any indication that she's coming through. Just want to share very briefly. I put together some slides on something that came from the John Mark and the Jeff podcast.
And we can stop this at any time once we see Katie coming on, but we'll press on with it.
So I just want to share some of the thoughts. And it's basically honoring the process of becoming. So sometimes we are making these values and rhythms and Zoe life, and we're seeing the future picture, the future self. But this just speaks to the whole area of becoming, or the process of being who God has made you. So here's a few questions. Who am I becoming by what I'm doing?
That's a good one.
So there's a big combination between what I do and what I become. And I think that's the reason why rhythms are so important, because our rhythms of what we intentionally set in place because of the values, what we hold to a lot of value, it makes such a difference. So who am I becoming by what I'm doing is a good question, kind of a guiding question to see where it's going to take us.
Because everyone always focuses on being, which is really, really important, but you never arrive. You are always becoming what you are being. So it's not stagnant. It's actually very dangerous when your being stops. And so it's always growing.
So you're thinking about goals, habits, behaviors, rhythms, values. We could put all those things in there. Those are so that the choice of all these and identifying them, it is about your being, hopefully, and it is about what you're becoming and the process of that. And one of the concepts that became very, very powerful is the whole concept of fruit and growing your fruit. And when fruit is grown, just think of John chapter 15, where Jesus talks about being connected to the vine. So he is the vine, we are the branches. And we know, we have a friend down in Uruguay, Pablo and Marianela, and when we went to visit them, they had a great vine. It was one plant, sort of like what we see in the picture here. And they had a huge trellis, and it was over the whole walkway coming into their home. And they said this plant was 50 years old, over 50 years old.
The trellis itself was 40 feet. That's what, 13 meters.
And it was
huge,
always laden with this beautiful fruit. And so it speaks to the whole idea of the trellis, or the framework, or the structure that allows you to grow your fully alive Zoe life so that you can have fruit and that the fruit is supported. And here's another statement that they made that really made me think so much. Whatever you're facing towards is what you become.
Yeah.
So when we identify these values and we identify these rhythms and we identify our Zoe life and we're facing towards it, and like a binocular, we're trying to see what's going on. It is part of the becoming process.
Yeah, and I think that as we face the values and we are moving towards them, we become that. And I think that's really, really important. You don't just sit down and go, there's my 3 values. You have to face them. You have to walk towards them and live in them.
One of the words that John Mark used was formations, and that triggered a lot of thoughts in me. And it's the formations, not necessarily goals, but the formations of becoming and being intentional.
Because you can have a goal, or you can have a value. And a goal is something you reach. A value is something you continue in.
Right. And he encouraged to have formations without timelines. And it speaks to our identity. And the thing that I put together with our identity is our I am statements. So when we're having our future self statements in each of the modules, I am living fully alive. I am being intentional with my rhythms. I am inhabiting my values so that I can live my Zoe life. These help us be focused towards the place where we're at. And the formations help us in the identity of who we are becoming. For example, our value of getting healthy. I could say I'm eating healthy food, or I am healthy. I am a healthy person because of my choices, because of the formations, because of the becoming that I am. And another question is, who am I becoming with this behavior? The next generation is the most connected generation to the internet, to our devices, to we're having.
Thank you, George, that we can all communicate to each other. That's good. I know that you're involved in that.
Thank you. Our behaviors, or our consistent behaviors on the internet or with people, or some of these values that we're talking, what direction is that pointing us towards? And who am I becoming? Our identity. I am becoming a healthy person. I'm becoming an adventurer. I am becoming a creative cook.
I love this statement. The things we do
something to us. Yeah.
Take that off there a moment.
Take it off for a second. But the things we do something to us. And that's very important. So what we do has an effect. Don't think we can just, even in our chill time. And if you're doing it, it becomes your identity. Maybe we don't call it that. Maybe we don't call it, I am an addict to social media, or I am a sleepaholic. I don't know what we would call somebody who sleeps a lot, but what you're doing is part of this formation of becoming.
I think someone who sleeps a lot would be called tired.
Yeah. So we want to honor the process of becoming, the process of the formation, the process of aiming towards and being the person that God wants us to be fully alive. So I wonder, what are some of your thoughts? What are some of your thoughts about the formation and honoring the process of becoming? Not that we have already arrived, because none of us have. We are in process. And what does that process look like? And how can we be intentional with both our rhythms and our values?
Yeah, sorry, Katie, that you got kicked off there for a few moments. It's supposed to be working that way, but we've had last few people, so I think we're going to stop for a little bit doing that until we figure out how to do it well.
We'll learn how to do the hands up. Thank you for trying.
For those minutes that you missed, you can go back and watch it all. The thing I don't like so much about this is you can't just skip ahead to the next one, and maybe once we take them and put them up to YouTube or something, you'll be able to do that.
Skip ahead and go to a point.
Yeah.
Okay. So Katie, I don't know if you had something in mind. We were going to try to help you process some of your values.
I was going to learn from productivity.
Yeah. Any thoughts about the honoring the process of becoming, or being in transition, or being and doing what we're focusing on and what we're putting out there? Matt says, I like the distinction about values being something you live in, where a goal is something you work towards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a goal would be to build a house, but a value is to live in it. There's a big difference. One is very temporary. Yeah. The other one can last your life, and it can be a place where you invite other people into. Your values make space for you. The good news comes through us as we live out fully alive those values.
Yeah. So for us, we set out in December to detox. That was something we do. That was a goal for us. But it happened to transform us into more of our identity and who we are and what our values are of being healthy. So the process of doing something made a difference and became a value because we saw how important and the benefits for it.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes left of the actual webinar, and then we can go on for more questions. But if there's anything
we want to sort of officially stop after the 60-minute mark, and then we'll stand for another 30 minutes or so if you guys still want to chat.
But if there's anything specifically you're like, how does this happen, or something you've discovered, I'd love you to type it in there, because we want to acknowledge that or even speak into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should we go with one more poll? I know you had one more there.
One more poll? Okay, sure.
We're just trying to learn as much as we can from you in this process.
All right, 50% of you on the last poll about which statement describes finding your values, 50% of you said it was easier, and 50% of you said it was more difficult.
Perfect.
So thank you for that response. That's amazing. And the new poll that we want to put up is, here's about values. My top values are in this area. We talked last week about our rhythms in mind, body, spirit, creative. So in which area did you find your values or your top values? Are they in the mind, the body, the spirit, creative, or another area? So we'd love to hear from you if you don't mind just ticking that.
I think my 3 were in 3 different areas. So I think, is that good?
It is what it is. Just curious about it. And in that poll, it only lets you choose one. So you maybe just need to identify your top area.
Katie, you say,
have you experienced a change in values that have impacted the people around you? Specifically, that's a good word, that you have had people react to negatively. So I think I understand the question. Experience a change in values that impacted the people around you in a negative way.
I think I would have to go back to the ship. When we went to the ship, I had some values that I lived my life according to those values. My rhythms were that way, but it was very different than the culture on board the ship while we were on. And I remember, it was very frustrating because I was thinking, what is going on here? What's wrong with me? But I just saw that my values definitely were in conflict with other people's values, and actually living out my values made them either feel insecure or frustrated. So yeah, that does happen. I'm not sure what the best way forward in that is. I think we're to love everyone, but there are some values you're going to hold that are very different than other people's. And that does not mean we come to a place where we separate the relationship. I think that's one of the beautiful things about culture. And I believe it's a God-given culture that one will grow the other, that we can learn from people. We shouldn't just be with people that are exactly the same as us. But there will be times that your value has a negative effect on others, and especially maybe in a cultural situation. You take someone from a culture that's very work oriented, very much get it done. You put them in a culture that is all about relationships and having a meal for 4 hours. there's going to be a negative effect there. But there's something that probably both parties can learn.
I think sometimes a negative effect that comes to mind in a slightly different way than Dan mentioned is when we're living our values and we're going strongly for it and we're making our rhythms to go with our values. Sometimes it makes people uncomfortable, and it's negative because we are trying to be disciplined or have these rhythms, and we're seeing success, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. They feel like they're lacking, or they don't have something like that going for them, and they can feel uncomfortable or even challenged, and that can be a negative effect. One of the girls that I mentored, I think I've talked about her before, she has started this body fitness, and she's coaching and mentoring other people to get into fitness. And she's trying to encourage them by saying before pictures, after pictures, but there's some negative effects to everybody. Like, wow, look at she looks so good, and I do not look so good like that. And sometimes that happens when we're going for people and going for things that God has really set in our life. And people say to us, oh, you're so fully alive, or you have that life, or you're doing this. And it has negative effects because it has a challenge to people. So that's one of the ways that I think about that.
Always my before and after pictures look exactly the same, which is very depressing. So I don't take before and after pictures.
You just take pictures.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Any other thoughts? How'd we do on that
I'll have a quick look on the poll. Okay. It doesn't look like anybody voted. I wonder if the poll went up. Are you guys? Oh, other. 100% other. Okay. So maybe that means a combination. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a limiting, a limiting poll there where it was straight up answers. Awesome.
Great.
Any other questions, comments, emotional outbursts that you guys have as you're responding to this? We again appreciate each and every one of you who have been able to show up here and to listen and process with us, and those who put things in the feedback. Katie, for trying to put your hand up and come
something
in.
that just occurred to me as we're going through this, and we haven't talked about it anywhere in the course, is how do you get rid of values that you don't want to have?
Or negative thought behaviors. There is a number of questions about
that.
Because
I think in my mind, I've been just totally thinking about how do I start this new value? How do I honor it? But I may need to go back and look at some of the values that I have that are not ones that I want to keep, and how I go through the process. Maybe if anyone has any ideas how you get rid of a value, I would love also to have a little bit of feedback on the how do you tear down the house that you don't want to live in anymore? How do you get rid of that and move on?
Yeah, in the process of becoming, and you notice that you're doing or you're thinking or your bodily behavior, creative rhythms, spirit rhythms are not what you want. We actually have had a few responses and messages about this. How do you get rid of negative thought habits, or how do you get rid of those negative patterns? One thing that I love to do is I actually love chocolate. And this detox, I'm not supposed to have sugar. Dark chocolate is good for you, the antioxidants, but I really try to limit it. So on that bodily behavior, one of the ways that I try to do it, I try to put it away, make it difficult to find. It's not like right out there. I have to really go for it. And that helps me a lot.
Don't buy it. Don't bring it into the house.
And I also, if I want something, I'm like, okay, let me drink a whole glass of water. And if I still want it, then I can consider it. I'll try to walk away from it. So I'm trying to like retrain myself to not go for those things that are not actually having a good effect on me.
Yeah.
The other thing about mind, everything comes, like we were talking about, the seeds planted grows into our character tree. So we have to be transformed, Romans 12 says, by renewing our mind. So we start the pattern in our mind, and we're able to take that mind and reform it into what we really truly want. So we ask God to help us. Brother B, our friend who stopped by yesterday, just gave an amazing reminder to me because he's raising his son. He has a 2-year-old son now, and he always has such a passionate connection to his father. And I said, how are you and the Father God and you as a father talk about that concept? So he spent a little bit of time doing it. And one of the things that he said, which really challenged me, inspired me, is he just says, God, what should I do with my son? And he says, God gives very clear and specific instructions. Put your hand on his foot and just hold it there for a while, or rub his back, or sometimes Father God wakes him up so that he can be ready when his son wakes up. And I'm like, wow, I have a connection with God, but do I have a connection like that? But I think Father God wants to have that kind of connection with us. And when we're not sure if we're having negative values lived out or behaviors, or if we just need to hear from God, God, what should I do? We should ask him. Yeah. And it was such a reminder to me yesterday, again, to put that as a priority, to not, only look in the Bible and not only process and not only ask our friends and our people about it, but also ask God and wait for the answer and listen to what he has to say, because he cares about our Zoe life and about our behaviors, the good and the bad, even more than we care about ourselves.
So we've come to the end of our hour. At this point, I should have another video that runs the credits and who ran the camera. I did. Who set up the lighting? I did. All those things, but it's
set up the room? Dan.
Yeah.
Who stood here and talked? Me.
Yeah.
And you.
Breakfast by Suzie. But anyway, we're going to come to the end of the session. But again, we're just here now from this point on just to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, I've got a comment from Matt. Matt, that's an awesome question, Dan. It's a bit like Ecclesiastes 3 again. Time to plant, time to uproot. I wonder if it's harder to uproot than to plant, because the roots have a firm grip on us, especially if we've held that value belief for a long time. Tell about our roots out back.
Yeah, I think it's easy to pull up a new root. There are like in our garden, we have some pine trees that are this tall, and it takes about 2 pulls and they're up and they're gone and they're dead. But we've got stuff in our garden that has taken root, that has gone underground, that's come up. We have vines, we have poison ivy. You don't want poison ivy. You don't want to plant that in your life because it is so hard to get rid of. And it's funny because in this season, it has no effect on us, but in the next season,
when it starts getting a little warmer.
And I think there's some values that we've placed in our life that at one time were very strong, and then they're gone for a while, and then suddenly they pop up again. So yeah, I think that's a great analogy, because I think it's a root system, our values, and we want to plant the new values down deep, water them, feed them.
Nurture.
What you feed will grow. But there are some things that keep growing even if you're not feeding them. And I love Ecclesiastes. This is one of my favorite books. But there is a time to uproot. There is a time to tear down. And we have to be very vigilant. Village. A whole village is, yeah,
Yeah. Some of the roots, great point, Matt, because some of the roots that have been there for a long time, when we bought this house, it went back to the bank. It was possessed by the bank because the previous owners didn't take care of it and didn't pay their bills. And when we first bought this house, there were vines from the garden that were attached to the house, and they had to be cut down. Our house needed to be scrubbed. We had to do a lot of work. And so those ones, like Dan was saying, that have been rooted down that we don't want, if you don't want them and we've given them space and we've nurtured them, whether we wanted to nurture them or not, they were growing. They're very difficult. Some of those vines that we cut, we have to continually, every spring, we take some intentional time and we try to cut out those vines that are beginning to grow again, because they're so rooted underneath that we don't want to have.
And for those of you who know that we just took our whole front yard, we got rid of about 50 trees. We've planted grass. The grass is green. It's beautiful. Even in the winter here, it's absolutely gorgeous. But I know the seeds that I put in are just for the winter. Come March, that whole front yard is going to die, and I'm going to have to replant it. And I think sometimes it's the same way with our values, that we have those values for a season. And I think sometimes we get really discouraged. What if I don't do this forever? Then you don't do it forever. We need to be very intentional. Like this month, here are the 3 I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on adventure. I'm going to focus on innovation. I'm going to focus on life. Doesn't mean I let the rest of them go. But like in my front yard, that's what I'm planting. That's what I'm watering. But I may move on to something else next month. And that's okay. That's the way God has created us. We have the privilege, whether you live in an apartment or a house or whatever, to redecorate it. And sometimes to move to a new house. So I think that's the same with our values.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Katie, since you weren't able to put your hand up and have that chat together, I don't know how much time you have, but do you want to stay on and allow us to help you work through this one about your productivity? Or help me work through
productivity.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, just send a message and we can just chat through the chat.
When you leave, also tell us you're leaving. Someone is I just see that has left, but I don't know who's there still.
Bye. Thank you for being with us.
So if you leave, please just say.
Please feel free to leave anytime. And when you do, just say bye.
But we'll go for another 10, 15 minutes with some questions.
Thank you for joining us. Katie said sure. All right.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so Dan process us through this coaching moment with her. Productivity.
Well, I thought she was going to coach me.
Oh, okay. So she said sure.
I think that it's a great.
What are you wanting her to coach you on?
Yeah. Well, how do that whole balance? I think of how do I keep my and yet at the same time be productive? How do you? Because to me, those sometimes become in conflict, but the way God created me, I need to let both of them really be fully alive. But Suzie is typing right now. But Katie says, so I have the value of productivity, but it isn't one that I inhabit yet, which leads to a lot of guilt and shame because I feel I should be productive, but I don't manage it. Oh, that is like so
well spoken, Katie.
So normal. That is like, yes, that is the way I think many of us live, that this is what I want. And yet for some reason I can't get there. And for me, when I'm in that situation, I have to give myself permission to take the baby steps. I may want to produce a whole symphony, but production starts with putting the first note on the first page. And there are drafts and redrafts. There's that note may never make it in, but I think you have to give it permission to start someplace. And I think that's the tension, especially for us who maybe are a little more dreamers. I dream this. I have a vision for this to be produced. Wow, the real joy is not in the day that it's finished. Actually, it's a bit of a letdown. The joy is in taking the trail, taking the trip. So I would say, what would be, number one, identify what is it that you want to produce, and then what's the first step in producing that. That would be, for me, where I would begin that process. Is there something specifically within the value of producing that you would like to produce? Duzie writes, 1, what do you want to produce? 2, what is the first step towards that?
I think when we're thinking about honoring the becoming, these are the thoughts. I have that framework in my mind. You're facing towards the productivity, is what I understand you saying. And Dan's talking about baby steps. But when we're facing towards it, when it becomes highlighted in our mind, for example, we bought our Zoe car, which is a Jeep Renegade. God basically gave us such a gift with that car, such a discount. And Dan had noticed Renegades, But many of our friends they knew that the Zoe car was a piece, and then we took our road trip in it. And many of our friends would write to us and say, I never saw a Jeep Renegade before, and now I see them everywhere. And I think it speaks to the whole idea when we put something in front of us, then we begin to notice it. We begin to become intentional. When we're trying to put these rhythms in it, then it's much more of a focus. It's taking up some brain space and some brain waves, and we get going towards it. And Katie says, there's also the fight of trying to work out which of the projects to produce and work towards. So my question to you would be, you probably see your future self of being this productive person or all of these projects. Which is the first one that gives you joy? We're trying to minimize and sort. And one of the questions that they ask, and I need to do that with some of my clothes that we stored here that I have to put back into my cupboard, I'm giving space because I want to choose those ones that bring me joy, the ones that are going towards the direction that I want to be, that are really towards my future self. And when I think of which one is first, which one do you have the capacity to do first, that will be a baby step, that will maybe give you courage, that will maybe give you a celebration, maybe give you a win, that will allow you to keep going and keep going and keep going, because there's the momentum that needs to happen in the process of making new rhythms and values as well.
And Katie, I would encourage you to become friendly with the word seasons. We're from Michigan, and there is hunting season, and there are lots of animals that you can hunt. But in this season, you only can take down a deer with a bow and arrow. In this one, with the muzzleloader. In this one, it's elk. In this one, it's bear. In this one, it's rabbit. You don't go out and shoot anything that moves. You need to focus on, this is the season. And it's
season 4.
You are literally blessed with the fact that you're from Michigan. That's a blessing. But you're blessed with the fact that at this point in time, maybe you don't have that job. You don't have that visa, because there is something deep inside of you. Don't look out and say, what does the world need?
How can I be productive out there and get money from it?
This seems to be a season where God is saying, what's in there? What is it you want to create? Maybe just to give you life. Maybe it will be that thing like we talked about in the Sabbath cycle, that I want to create this, and God's going to get glory and people are going to benefit. But don't forget the personal satisfaction and rest. So to me, I would look at this season as, this is a blessing, that there are very few people in Michigan that actually get a license to shoot down a bear. It is a lottery. But if you get that is huge. I think this moment in your life, Katie, is huge for you, because you have a wide open space. You've been given the ticket to say, this is your chance to do what you want to do. And I think if you look down deep, there's something there that isn't the world screaming for. There's something in your soul that's screaming, I would love to, if I ever get a chance to do this, that's the time you're in.
Yeah, and I think it's breaking it down into small, basic elements. And if you can do that, find out what your productivity was going to look like, and try to make a list or a mind map, or however you work, about what are the parts that could be included in that. One of the things that I find very fascinating is we're learning about courses. I found this one lady who is a calligraphy teacher, and she gives free courses on basic strokes. And so I enrolled in it, and so I'm learning how she puts up courses, and I'm interested as well. And I like to write, and I want to write creatively. And I thought, what a great idea. And I think it applies really to you, Katie, and to some of us who are looking at our values and rhythms. And she takes it down to the basic stroke. So you have to do the up and the down, and the up is light and the down is a heavy print. And there's a lot of basic strokes, upward, downward use and upward use and angles. And joiners and different things. And she has 20,000 people in this free course learning the basic steps. And then for the rest of the year, she has 12 other courses that you can take, because it is the growing in productivity, for example, of the productivity of calligraphy and writing. But she's broken it down into the basic steps and what's next. And that's often difficult for me as well, to find out what are those basic steps or those baby steps that I can take. And that's why we need somebody with the strength of strategy. Dan is a strategist, and he's a futurist. And so when I have that big blob of like, I want to do this, then he helps with his gift of strategy to help me break that down into smaller chunks, or to help me get in the right forward-facing position towards it.
And Katie, if this is something you're stuck in for very long, we would love to hop on Skype or a WhatsApp call or something and just coach you through that, because I think this stuck place is actually a gold place for you that you could launch forward. And maybe it's just be able to see a little bit beyond what's around the corner. So contact us if you'd like us to spend a little time coaching you forward, because that would be, I think, something. I don't think you're too stuck. I think you have what it's going to take to move forward. But I think it's just a few questions that if you could answer them, you would actually give yourself permission to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for putting it out there and putting out your productivity and your thoughts and your steps. It's very helpful for us to put a practical example in the midst of it.
Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, comments before we close this at 1 hour, 16 minutes?
At the moment.
Thanks, Katie.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Tuesday with Duzie, the Relaunch Your Life 2020, Inhabit Your Values. Next week is all about community. It is HLI. It's View Your Community. I don't know if you notice on each of our modules, it's alive. A is aim for Zoe, and then L was land your rhythm. This week, third module is inhabit your values. Next week is V, view your community. And we're going to open up the Tuesday next week to be for the greater community.
Anybody who wants to come,
so
you can
not
pass
just
to other
people
people.
inside the course, but we're going to talk about viewing your community, the people that are with us together in our community that support us in our rhythms, our values, and living our Zoe fully alive life.
The interesting thing right now is that we're in the process of looking 6 weeks ahead, because when Relaunch Your Life is over, we want to continue with something called flow. So right now we're in the process of what does flow look like? And we're talking about that will be a week. And this is going to be much more of a crash course, that is simply going to be probably wrapped around a webinar, an hour of real teaching and moving forward.
And then so one practical step. So it won't be so thick like this particular course is. It's a crash course. Just a shorter course. We're trying to figure out what the name of it is. So if you have any ideas of what a good name would be for a short course, this is like a maxi course or a master course.
Right. We understand that this course on relaunching your life is huge. It is a master course. It is about relaunching your life. So it's much bigger. But we also want to be doing just ones that in 1 hour you can get it, and it will give you momentum for your week ahead.
Yeah. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. And thanks, Matt, Katie, George, Cara, for
everyone else who watches afterwards.
Yeah, for interacting with us and putting what God's doing in and through you just right out there. We have so enjoyed hanging out with you. We've got 2 more webinars coming a little bit later today. If any of you want to join again, or if you want to send somebody else on it, that would be great.
And since we don't have an extra, we will end with our intro again. So my name's Dan.
And my name's Suzie, and together we're Duzie. We're loving life.
And seeing good
And we're out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.